And our next stop here is going to be Social Spotter. I should say hashtag Social Spotter. The revolution of digital reporting. Ashley Morris is here. Come on in.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me well? Great. I'm kind of a loudspeaker, so I probably don't even need this, but I'm glad we're on track here. So first of all, I'm Ashley Morris. I'm an emergency manager out in Baltimore County. I am so happy to be at NWAS. This is honestly one of my favorite associations to be a part of. Obviously, weather is a huge aspect of emergency management, as we all know, but it's just so valuable to make these partnerships. So we're going to go ahead and get started because I could talk about social media, storm reporting, and community reporting for probably all day. So for me to stay on time and keep going, we're going to go ahead and dive in. Oh, if I know how to use, there we go. Okay, so starting with the concept of public reporting and community reporting. We know it's extremely important for meteorology, right? We need it to confirm our warnings. We need it to help with our warning process. We need it to just have a basic situational awareness of what's going on outside of the forecasting office. And that's the same thing for emergency management. We use that same information to make decisions on whether or not we might need sheltering, we might need damage assessment, we might need to start ramping things up and kind of going the next level. So the concept of public reporting has actually been around in both fields for a very long time. I'm sure with many of you guys, I don't have to explain the 4 programs up there. All of you guys are very familiar with Skywarn, CoCoRaHS, Observers, and then also MPing, right? And jumping into first response, we have the same thing. So we have Neighborhood Watch, we have tip lines, we have arsonist lines, and we also have TV shows that even relied on that concept of engaging the community to give us information. And keep in mind too, with first response, we can't even start the first response process without having somebody give us a report, right? It's a call to 911 that something happened. It's a heads up, hey, we need help over here. But one of the things that is the most common about all of these public reporting concepts is the fact that we rely heavily previously on people using phones. So people picking up the phone, calling, relaying information, and that was kind of how we predominantly got that information. However, with modern technology and changes in our society of how we share information with each other, people don't call anymore. And I have a perfect example of how this actually happened in my old jurisdiction back in 2018 with an EF1 tornado that we had on a Sunday morning. So we actually had that tornado form in the middle of my city, and it was on the ground for about 20 minutes before NWS was able to catch it on radar and put out the tornado warning, being that it was a small tornado, very challenging to detect. And after I got the tornado warning, I actually gave dispatch a call, and I was like, hey, did we have any reports from the public? Did anybody call in the tornado? And nobody called. Nobody reported a tornado or any kind of sighting. And then obviously I spoke to NWS Austin after that, and nobody gave them a call. So they didn't get any spotter information. They didn't get anything on this tornado. However, when I go on social media and I start looking at reports or looking for any kind of information, I realized that we had pictures, just like the one up there that got picked up by television. We also had live streams. And believe it or not, I actually had a firefighter that worked for me take a picture and put it on social media and not give me a call, which I thought was very interesting because I'm an emergency manager. I need to know that, right? So the concept is people want to share information that way. They're used to it. They're sharing their experiences. That's how we pass information now. People just aren't using phone lines as much. So because of that, we've been forced to really evolve and adapt. And that's why, meteorologists as well as emergency managers have adapted and evolved to having Facebook, Twitter, Nextdoor, Snapchat to deliver public information to people because that's where they're going to find that information. However, I think that we could always do a little better of actually utilizing those platforms to get information to us. So it's less about just pushing information out for people to use, more about trying to utilize that via crowdsourcing, via digital collection. And then 2, we actually have some very interesting apps out like the Citizen app that allows people to do that. If they're in the area and they see an emergency, they take a picture, they stream it, and then they actually connect that with the dispatch calls. So this is a tool that we can really embrace because, like I said, people lean on this technology more than call lines and other things like that. However, I know meteorologists are super busy in their WFOs during active weather events. And I know as an emergency manager, I'm super busy. We don't always have time to sit there and scroll through social media, right? It's a really big challenge, I know, for a lot of my NWS partners to kind of staff that social media position. And it's a challenge for us too. So our number one goal should be to actually try to get reports funneled to us, directly to us via tags, emails, or whatever that is. And the way that we can actually do that is being present on social media, building community on social media, and then also considering some of our programming that we already have and how we can revamp that to reflect what community actually looks like in the way that they communicate. So let's kind of just focus on being present. So you want to be active on social media. It's one thing to have an agency account with NWS or an emergency management office, but you don't want to just post watches and warnings, right? You want to post other things. Maybe it's outreach. Maybe it's just a, hey, you know, this is a picture of our office and this is how we do things, right? You want to be constantly there for your followers. So you're building that relationship and you're also navigating some of the algorithm challenges and things like that. You want to be engaging, and this is one of the most important things. When people are sharing photos with you, or maybe they did actually take a picture of the hail and they put it on your Facebook page, you want to comment back, say, hey, thank you so much. You know, we really needed this. We appreciate this. This is really going to change, you know, our efforts in public safety. You want to make sure that you're reacting with them. You're doing the little heart sign or the little laughing face on Facebook to their comments. You're being there and building a relationship. Otherwise, it's like when they're talking to you, it just falls flat, right? You want to be conducting outreach because there are so many emergency managers and people in the public that don't know that you guys need storm reports or you don't need that kind of information. So you want to be explaining, hey, you know, when we have severe weather, pass that information on to us. For two, building community, you want to be able to build a digital network. So really leverage your partners. If you're an NWS office, look at some of your EMA office accounts and actually like their stuff, maybe share their stuff. Remember too that my network with my EMA social media account is a whole additional followers that you're serving. So if you post something on Facebook and then tag me and then I post it to mine, we're amplifying all of the people that can see it, right? And then three, let's go ahead and talk about revamping some of these programs. So with Skywarn, I know a lot of different Skywarns, depending on the region and the office, are already doing social media reporting, and some are doing it in a very creative way. But what if we actually standardized a hashtag for all of the offices and then just change the identifier? So that way, if I live in one CWA and I'm a Skywarn storm spotter, I know the hashtag, but then if I'm in California and something happens, I can tweet it to you on that same one. And we have one consistent thing for everybody rather than some offices doing, you know, Maryland weather or other offices doing EWX spotter, things like that. So that's something that we could do nationally. We could also potentially train our spotters to actually look through social media to dig up some of those reports and actually vet them. And we're going to talk a little bit about the virtual operations support team concept, and that's going to be in the future. And I promise I won't talk too much about it because that's one of my favorite subjects. And then going into Storm Ready. So that's obviously a very popular program for EMs, right? Something we could add to that is actually introducing them to the fact that they need to pass on storm reports to you guys. So that's something that, like I said, we're very familiar with how much that helps NWS, but there are so many emergency managers that don't know that you guys need that information. So they don't think when we have the flood rescue or we have the damage or the tree on the house to give you guys a call to let you know why that is and where that is. So actually making it an aspect of Storm Ready, maybe a checklist, hey, you know, passing on information to us would be a great way to actually educate a lot of the emergency managers on that. And then lastly, with the ambassador program, it would be really great too to actually promote reporting, right? We have a lot of different business sectors, private sector, government who are a part of that program, that would be a valuable way to get information to you guys and enhance the partnerships that we have with these programs. So what does this look like effectively? It looks like so many more reports and situational awareness delivered straight to you, maybe tags, maybe through DMs or an actual hashtag from passionate people that you're educating and doing that with. However, we know that it is not a perfect world, and we will never be able to educate every single person to tag the local WFO, right? So there are still going to be some people who see the tornado, take a picture, and just post it to their friends. So what we do when that happens is we actually go and do Lost Work, which is virtual operations support team, or basically scavenging for storm reports, which we basically can actually do this in a Skywarn program. We can train our Skywarn storm spotters, who are volunteers, to go through social media to find storm reports in real time, to vet them, because not everything on social media is necessarily valid, and then to pass the reports on to you while you're doing your job, either at the Weather Center or at the EOC like I am. This is extremely valuable for warning operations, LSR needs, and then also, like I said, damage assessment needs for me or anything that we're trying to figure out. So these are just a handful of different methods that you can actually dig through: Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. Once again, I could do a whole 2 hours on this itself, so feel free to save the slide and ask me questions later on that. But there are so many different techniques that we can find these reports. With Facebook, people are posting photos typically on television meteorologist pages because they want to get on the news, right? So it's a great way to assign somebody to navigate that. Twitter, we can use strings, geocode locations. Snapchat, how many of you guys have used Snapchat Map during an event? Yes, it's awesome. And you don't even need a Snapchat. You can actually just pull it up on your desktop. And if you see the picture on there, it'll show you all the snaps that are public on the map. And you can see we have Coast Guard rescue, flooding, things like that. That was for Hurricane Harvey in Houston. And then keep in mind too that all of your volunteers that you're training to do any kind of virtual storm reporting, searching, are also reporters. So even if they don't find anything, I've often had volunteers look outside their window and get a storm report, right? If the storm hits them, it's an additional resource that you're able to get storm reports for. Vetting. So like I said, I think we're all very familiar with misinformation and the need of actually making sure things on social media are confirmed. So you can't just take every tweet that you find and say, oh, you know, this is good enough for an LSR, right? We need to actually go through and confirm that. So making sure that we train these spotters or our volunteers in different resources like Photoshop check, but also the vetting processes is really important. And then to find these volunteers to help you, like I said, I think it's really great to take a look at your Skywarn program. I typically do that with the ones that I have for my jurisdiction. And usually they're also community emergency response team or CERT members. So they're already volunteers for emergency management who are trained in Skywarn and then actually trained to do a lot of this digital searching. You can activate them just like a spotter network. And honestly, it would be really great to consider that as an aspect of the Skywarn program as we move forward in the future. Consider the media. The media can really help us with this effort because they have a huge audience. They could push our hashtag either before the storm or after the storm and get more reports to us that way. And they can also help amplify our messages and collect reports. And then lastly, look at your EMA. We are all sorts of partnership. We're great partners together, but we also have our own volunteers. We have first response networks, and then we also have community relationships. So these are just a few of the photos that I actually used VOS to find. So we have some straight line wind damage and some tornado damage up there in Maryland. We have some Texas wind damage and also some flood damage, as well as empty shelves, which is actually during a water crisis that we had. And then these are more photos. So it's just extremely valuable to situational awareness as an emergency manager. And I know it's very valuable to you guys too as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. And I want to say you can reach out to me on Twitter, super active. Many of you guys might already follow me there. LinkedIn, you can give me a call or anything, but just really focus on connecting to our communities. I think that that information that we get from them can really revolutionize how we're serving our community and actually making sure that we have everything to do our jobs correctly. Thank you guys so much.